dummies, and now has made a chance for himself. His hat-trick! Here it comes through the Marsh. Oh, look at that for skill by Marsh! Oh, and what a goal! Rodney Marsh's hat-trick!
Best breaking, and in a great position to break too. This looks bad. What a great goal! George Best, and referee John Gow clapping his hands together and saying, well done too. Played inside for Marsh. Looking around, seeing who he can pick up. Decides to go in! Oh my goodness, what a tremendous goal by Marsh! Well, he won for them all. And a lovely ball for Best. Now can he do the same? Onto the right foot. Mitchell on the far post. Marsh with a header.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome Mr. Rodney Marsh? Ladies and gentlemen, Pelé once described him as the world's greatest footballer. Would you welcome the one and only George Best? Thank you. I was actually worried when you didn't come out because someone said you've been busy researching your autobiography and you might not make it tonight.
Well, is there anybody here who thought I wouldn't turn up tonight? Thank you, Dad. Yes, I'm doing a lot of research, and the publishers have asked me if there's anybody here who, since 1968 up until the present day, know what I've been doing. Can I get in touch with them? So they can finish the book.
As you were saying, there were magical moments there in the video. Did you both want to always be professional footballers, or did you want to be racing drivers or astronauts, or what was the aim when you were kids?
No, I did. I wanted to be a footballer from the first time I could walk. From 4 years of age, I just played football, and that was it for my life. And I wanted to be a footballer. I didn't want to be an astronaut, no.
George?
I just wanted to get pissed.
Oh, that's going to be a long show, isn't it? It's going to be a long show. Yeah.
No, I think the same as Rodney. Yeah, it's. I think when we were both kids growing up, we sort of came from similar backgrounds, and I was the same. That's the only thing I ever wanted to do was be a professional footballer.
And yet, Rodney was here, of course, in London as a kid, and you were in Belfast, a long, long way away from Manchester. Were you surprised at home when the phone rang? Were your family surprised to get the call, and it was the great Man United on the phone?
They were. Well, I was surprised because we didn't have a telephone. But before we go any further, I mean, I know we're recording this, but Rodney and I insisted, we really don't know what sort of film footage is coming up, but we insisted that we try and do it as closely to what we've been doing and ad-lib, so we really do, we've got no idea what's going to happen, so enjoy yourselves.
And no holds barred.
Not at all. When it comes to the questions, you can ask anything you want, yeah.
Now, as we say, you both ended up at two very famous football clubs. Down the years, obviously, you played for lots and lots of famous managers. George, Sir Matt Busby. What was Sir Matt like?
Great man. I mean, he had a reputation of being a little bit soft, but when he had to be hard, he was terrific. I mean, I'm the only person in the history of Manchester United who spent more time in his office than he did. And there's not many people know this, but Sir Matt was a great Scotsman, and behind his desk in the office he had the old, remember the stag at bay, and not many people know this, but there were 3,674 stags on his wallpaper, because when he was giving me a bollocking, I just sat there nodding and counting the stags.
But is it right, as somebody said to me, that he came across sometimes as a weak man, and you were once elected by the lads to go in and ask for a pay rise? Is that right?
He was, no, he had a lovely way of doing things. I mean, in those days, we had such a great side and so many great players. We actually decided one day, because we were getting so many big crowds, and we decided to go in for a pay rise. So we drew lots. And unfortunately, it wasn't me that went in. I wouldn't have gone in. It was Dennis Law who drew the short straw. And to this day, he doesn't realise that we set him up. But he went in, and we were all going, like, go on, Dennis, you go and tell him, you sort him out, because Dennis was such a great, great player and a great character. So he went in, and he was gone about 30 seconds. And he came back, and he said, I've sorted it out, boys. He said, we're taking £10 a week less for the rest of the season.
You played with some great managers, under some great managers as well, the likes of Gordon Jago, Rod?
When I was at QPR, any QPR fans here? When I was at QPR, we had a manager called Alex Stock, who was, I thought was a great manager, Alex Stock. Thank you, Mr. Stock. And QPR won the league championship in the third division. They won the League Cup, and he was a great man and very similar to Matt Busby. And but when he got the sack, Gordon Jago took over from him, and Gordon Jago wasn't as nearly as strong as Alex Stock. In fact, he was quite a weak manager. And the first time he came to the club, Terry Venables was there, and he came to the club, and he's given his first lecture to all the players in the dressing room. And he came in in a very wimpish way. He said, I'm the new manager, and I want you to play for me, and I want you to win. And we need commitment at QPR, and we need energy, and we need enthusiasm. And give his speech. And I stood up, I said, Gordon, I said, on behalf of the players, we're behind you 40%. And at the end of that season, I was playing for Manchester City. So
So have a drink, George.
What's that?
Sorry, Bester, that's Perrier, son. That's the old Perrier.
You're not happy with that?
No, it's my houseboy here.
Kenny Lynch! Kenny Lynch!
Terrific. How are you? All right? Just poured the lads a drink. Are we telling our favourite stories, soccer stories yet?
Yep, we're on to that.
I won't mention you, Matt. Don't worry.
Anybody here want to hear one Kenny Lynch story?
This is a true story, I'm going to tell you, honestly.
You got one story and you get off, right?
I'll leave the champagne. This is a true story. Me and Bestie, we used to share a flat together in Manchester. I was his best friend, for 25 years. Well, somebody had to carry the crates. Anyway, I used to go away, and one day, the second game that England played after they won the World Cup in '66, they played Northern Ireland at Limerick. So I went over there with him. He told me it was going to be nice and sunny there. I had a jumper on. Me and Mike Sumner went over there. You didn't know that, did you, Mark? Me and Mike Sumner went over there, and we watched the game. They got beat 2-1, I think you got beat, didn't you? And when I went up to pick Bestie up in the dressing room afterwards, and he said, well, get a cab. So we tried to get a cab. We couldn't get a cab anywhere. So we walked right the way through Belfast. And in those days, all the kids in Belfast used to play 3 and in against the wall. And we got to one corner, and I'm shouting out for a cab. All of a sudden, these kids turn around, they see Georgie Best and say, hey, there's Georgie Best, so it is. And the little kid next to him said, hey, and he's got Cassius Clay with him.
Cheers, have a great night. Kenny Lynch!
Kenny Lynch.
Kenny Lynch. Right, Ken. Right, Richie.
Just before we leave the managers that you both played for, we can't, I guess, move on to another subject without you've spoken about Tommy Docherty. Good manager, George, what are your thoughts?
Crap. Yeah, he was the last manager when I was playing at Manchester United, and I didn't really get on with Tommy too well. I mean, I think he was summed up once by a good friend of mine who played for Manchester United, and he said if Tommy Docherty says good morning, go out and check the weather. But the real reason I didn't get on with him because he didn't fuck off with my wife. To be quite honest, great character, and he's good for the game, and it's a shame that he's not in it any longer. The game needs characters.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of characters here tonight, and we'd just like to mention one or two. One that Rodney played under, Malcolm Allison, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause for Malcolm Allison. From the world of snooker, Mr. John Virgo. Sitting alongside John, we've got the highly talented Bobby Davro. And we've also got sitting about 9 or... Thank you, sir. 9 or 10 rows back, we've also got Mr. Sam Haman, the Wimbledon chairman.
Don't forget Bobby Keats, the great...
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bobby Keats, yeah. Fulham centre-half. Fulham centre-half, yeah.
And also the man responsible for me being here, my dad.
Perfect.
Hey, Dad, you were responsible, weren't you? Yeah? You can tell me the truth, eh?
What did he say? Down the years, you were obviously involved in many memorable matches, lots of fantastic goals. European Cup finals, goals that won league championships. One that springs to mind for me is the 6 you scored against Northampton.
Yeah, it was nice because at the time I'd been suspended for 6 weeks. And the team had... I don't know why. I think it's because they couldn't find me, probably. It was... the team had done quite well. And without me, so there was a lot of talk of me not getting back in the side because the team had done really well. Anyway, Sir Matt decided to bring me back, and we played. It was my first game. We played Northampton, and I managed to sneak in 6 goals. So it was a bit special. Yeah.
6 memorable goals. We've got a little surprise. You haven't seen them for a while. They really were terrific goals. Take a look at this.
In the middle is Morgan and Best. Book could lose it. It's Best. Georgie Best. Ferren through for Best. Here he goes again. Georgie Best. And a chance for Best. Here's the hat-trick. There it is eventually. Kid again. Here's Best. Number 4. Best going through the middle. He's on for 5. There it is. Here's Crerand. Best. Here's the record. There it is. Georgie Best sets a new scoring record for Manchester United.
Absolutely terrific moments. Did you go out and celebrate greatly after that?
I celebrated before, during, and after. It was funny because Rodney said to me, who was the goalkeeper? And Malcolm shouted out, the goalkeeper actually was the brother of Tony Book, who played right back for Malcolm's great side. And at the time, after the 6, I didn't realise if I'd have got another goal, it would have been the record. I felt a bit sorry for him after with 20 minutes left, so I played left back for 20.
Absolutely. Rod, we don't want to let you feel as though you're left out. We've actually got you scoring, I think, 3 goals.
Well, that's only half the player he was anyway, wasn't it?
Marsh is falling for it, and a slip there allows Marsh to go in. A goal by Marsh. What a goal! Marsh getting ahead to it. Oh, Rodney Marsh! A second goal to Marsh. Will it come through to Marsh? Oh, look at that for skill by Marsh. Oh, and what a goal! Rodney Marsh's hat-trick.
Some cracking goals there, I think you'll agree, ladies and gentlemen. Gary Lineker, who knows all about scoring goals, he actually said to me a few weeks ago, there's nothing like scoring. Would you agree with that?
Went on the pitch, you're off.
Whatever, George, whatever. No holds barred, we said that.
No, it's a bit
That's
special.
what you think about it.
Yeah, it's a bit special. I mean, when you see stuff like that, the old hairs in the back of the neck stand up. It really is a little bit special. And, I mean, I was asked once, if I had a choice of scoring with Miss World or scoring a goal in a European Cup final, what would be the choice? And I said, well, I was lucky I did both. But only one of them in front of 100,000 people.
So, same feeling for you, Rod? I mean, getting a hat-trick in a big game, what's it like?
Actually, in that game, I hit the post 3 times as well. No, I did.
Oh, just because I got 6, eh?
Somebody said, though, that you were a greedy player, a selfish player. You only played for yourself. Do you go along with that?
Absolutely. As an example, I played in the game one day, and we had a player called John O'Rourke, who was playing for QPR, and the QPR fans remember him, centre-forward goal scorer. And he was completely unmarked in the middle, and I had about 4 players between me and the goal. And I went past the first player, and I beat him. I beat the second player. I beat the third player. I got right in the box, and just as I was about to shoot, the fourth player towed it away from me. And there was John O'Rourke, who stood in the middle all the time, completely unmarked. And we came off, and the manager was Bobby Campbell. And Bobby Campbell said to me after the game, he said, "Rodney, why didn't you pass it to John O'Rourke?" I said, "I thought I had more chance of scoring by beating 4 than he did with an open goal." That's a true story. That's how I felt about the game. I felt that I could do better, you know, than some of the other players, maybe.
And yet you only played 9 times for England. Now, why would that be? Why did you only get 9 caps?
He was only picked 9 times.
So there is something different about playing at international level, is there?
No, well, to be absolutely honest, my last game for England was against West Germany. This is an absolutely true story. I'm going to have to swear, but it's a true story. And not many people know this, and I haven't talked about it over the years, and I haven't done a biography like Jules, so people don't know this. But Alf Ramsey picked the team against West Germany at Wembley, and he said, because he had elocution lessons, Alf Ramsey, and he said, tonight's game, he said, the substitutes will be Alan Clark, Rodney Marsh, Peter Bonetti, and he went on. And then named the team, Gordon Banks, Jeff Hurst, Francis Lee, and named the whole team. And he was doing his team talk, and he said, this will be the free kicks, this will be the corner kicks. He went, penalties. He said, who fancies penalties tonight? Rodney, how about you? I said, I'd love to, but I'm not fucking playing. That's a true story, and I obviously didn't play for England anymore after that.
Mentioning the various clubs you've played for, Manchester City, now, when you moved there and you played under Malcolm Allison,
yeah,
people said that you cost Manchester City the championship.
Thank you very much. Actually, when I first went there, it was very hard for me because, we haven't talked about this, but it was very hard for me because being a Cockney, moving to the north, it was quite difficult, and I really didn't understand the northern sense of humour when I first went up there. And there's a comedian up there, Bobby will know him. There's a comedian called Bernard Manning. Oh, you heard of him, have you? Well, I'd been in Manchester for about 3 weeks, and we were then equal top. The team below us had caught us. I think it was Derby County. And Bernard Manning was doing an act one night, and he said, I'm trying to remember the story, he said something like, Manchester City, he was a Manchester City fan as well, Malcolm, wasn't he? Manchester City fan, and he said, Manchester City have signed Rodney Marsh, and they've got Francis Lee and Mike Summerby and Colin Bell, and they've signed Rodney Marsh, and he's like a lighthouse in the desert. He's very bright, but fucking useless. And I didn't understand that sense of humour too much.
Those days in Manchester, did you socialise together? Were you good mates then?
Well, we fell over each other, didn't we, a few times? Walking up the steps to Slack Alice.
Yeah, it was great in those days because I think it was a little bit different from today, City and United. We actually used to socialise with each other, the teams, and Malcolm used to come out and have a drink with us, and the players. It was great fun. I mean, my best pal in those days, or I thought he was Mike Summerby. I was best man at Mike's wedding, and you know, we went into business together. We opened a couple of shops in Manchester, and I thought we were great pals until one Derby match. I'd been threatened. I'd had a threat through the post that I was going to be shot during the Derby game at Main Road, and I found out then what true friends are. The police took it pretty seriously, so I had police protection for 24 hours. And before the game, I went across to say hello to Mike and shake hands with him. He told me to piss off. That was in case they had a machine gun, yeah.
Were there great pressures, especially on you, though, in those days, George? I mean, when you started becoming the superstar, how did the other players react, the likes of, say, Bobby Charlton, who was a more senior player?
Yeah, that's why he lost his hair, you're right, yeah. Yeah, I think Bobby was this sort of elder statesman, really. You know, he'd been there as a kid, and he'd gone through the Munich Air Crisis, and, you know, was a great, great player. And, you know, here was this young kid coming in, doing the things that Bobby didn't think were right. You know, I was going out drinking and screwing around with women and gambling and smashing my car up every night, and he didn't think it was right. I mean, it's... we just lived different lifestyles. I mean, when we finished training, he went home to his missus, and I went out shagging and all the other things, you know, which I thought was quite normal. But this thing spread over the years that he and I didn't get on. It's not true. I see a lot of Bobby. And we're not bosom buddies, but we're pals, yeah.
But he's miserable, though, and he's a miserable person, isn't he? No, to be fair. I know he's watching on the show, but you told me he was miserable.
He's a bit dour. I mean, there's a rumour going around that when he gets up in the morning and looks in the mirror and smiles and then says, "Thank fuck, that's over for the rest of the day." I mean, that's not...
So was that the time when you really started to hit the bottle and drink? And if it was, why did you start to drink so much?
Because I liked it. I don't know. I did. I enjoyed it. It was as simple as that. No, that could have happened no matter. I mean, people, you know, keep asking me, you know, what happened or why did you start drinking or why did it carry on? I don't have the answer. If I could have the answer, I'd make a fortune. I don't do it anymore anyway.
As a mate, though, then, Rodney, would you have sort of worried about George and picked up the paper and thought, my goodness, look what he's done now? Well,
when we first started to do the show, it was 9 weeks ago, and you know, there was a rumour that George liked to drink, and he had a bit of a drink problem. Can't get enough of it, yeah.
That's why I went to North America. I saw a sign once that said, "Drink Canada Dry."
He's got a great sense of humour, and the first night we did the show, after the show, he said, "Come on, Marsh," he said, "I'll take you out for dinner." And he took me out for dinner to a little restaurant. And he walks into the restaurant, and the waiter comes over, and he says, "It's a true story." He said, 2 bottles of Dom Perignon, please." And the waiter brings over a Dom Perignon, he puts it down in front of both of us, and he opens up the first bottle. Within 5 minutes, he's almost drunk the first bottle of Dom Perignon. And the little waiter comes back and he starts to open the second bottle, and Jules looks at him and he said, he looks at the waiter, he said, "You know, I really shouldn't be doing this with what I've got." And the waiter went, "Well, what's that?" He said, £2. So he's got a good sense of humour as well, yeah.
The drink those caused its problems. I mean, we're here in front of the TV cameras tonight. What about that infamous Wogan appearance? What was the real story behind that?
Yeah, well, it was cheap wine. I mean, the plonk I was done. There was no big secret or no mystery. Did anybody see the Wogan show? Yeah. Wish I'd have seen it. Was it good? It was. It was just one of those unfortunate experiences. They've stopped since then. When you do television shows, you go in a place called the Green Room, and they play with a few drinks. But they didn't realise how much I could drink, and I went a little bit over the top. There's a thin line, but the nice thing, there was a few nice things came out of it. That Omar Sharif and I got engaged the following day, and then a couple of days later, Alex Higgins called me and Oliver Reed. And they said, "Bestie, you looked all right to us." But he also, I mean, he said at the time he would never ever invite me back. He reneged because the viewing figures were astronomical because he wanted to get me back, hoping I'd fall flat on my face again. But the second time he didn't take much of a chance, did he? Did you see the second show? He didn't take a chance, did he? Cliff Richard and a nun.
Magical moments on the Wogan show. We're hoping now to get some magical moments from our audience here. George and Rodney would like to take questions from you. As we've said, you can make them as controversial as you like. Absolutely no holds barred. So who would like to start us off with a question, please? Lady sitting over there.
I'd just like to say to both of you If given the opportunity to become managers of a club, would you want to do that or not? And if so, for either reason, why?
Good question.
You go first.
I'll go first. Yeah, I would. I'd love the chance, yeah. Stringfellows.
Gentleman sitting there.
Yeah, question for George. George, as we all know, you're a bit of a ladies' man, but is it true you once caught in bed with a woman shortly before a cup semi-final?
What do you call shortly?
In the changing room.
Yeah, it was, if I remember rightly, it was before a semi-final when Wilf McGuinness was in charge. And it was about 50 minutes before the team coach left. Wilf walked in and fuming wasn't the word. And he dragged me out. And he said, right, he said, you get on the coach. He said, I'll talk to you later. And he was so uptight, so he was in front of me. So he went down the bar and I heard him order a double scotch. So as he walked into the bar, I turned back and went in the bedroom because I hadn't finished what I'd started. So, and I went on the pitch, and there's always a thing about whether you should do it before the game or not, or whether it's good and it's bad. And I went out there and I thought, well, I'll show him. And the first time I got the ball, I fell flat on my face, and I thought, okay, that's the last time I'm going to do it before a game. It wasn't, but.
There's a young lad sitting there, 3 rows back.
This is to George. You had the reputation of being like a wild character. What do you think of Paul Gascoigne's behaviour off the pitch, like how he behaves and that in public?
I think he's a nutter, to be quite honest. I mean, I do a little story, and he's another great character. But I think you've got to wonder about someone who wears women's false tits. You've got to think there's got to be something wrong with him. I'm going back to the photograph when Vinny grabbed him by the balls. He was smiling on it. Vinnie Jones is the only person I know can trap a ball further than Rodney can kick it. But talking about hard men, we talk about Tommy Smith, who, when we were playing, I think Rodney and I agree, you talk about a hard man. This was the hardest man that I personally have ever played against, and also a dirty player. And I mean, I spoke to him a couple of weeks back, and I said to him, I said, Tommy, I said, you're the dirtiest bastard I've ever played against. And then I put the phone down. And it...
Gentleman sitting there.
Yeah, you've come in for a bit of stick from the British press, like Paul Gascoigne has. What do you think about the British press's treatment of major football stars today and in your time as well?
I think, it depends. I think I've always believed it's diabolical. I mean, I treat them with complete disrespect. I mean, I had a call a couple of days ago from a guy, and he said, Mr. Best, he said, I'm from the sun. And I said, I'm from the earth, fuck off. I mean, that's how...
Gentleman halfway back.
George, what do you think of Ryan Giggs' ability?
I think he's great. I think this lad's going to be one of the great players.
How do you think he compares to other great stars of sort of the past?
Well, obviously he gets a comparison, but I hate that. I hate being compared. It's unfair in him, and it's unfair in me a little. I think it's nice from my point of view. He takes it as a compliment. And I found out recently, I bumped into him. I did a dinner in Wales and met his granddad, and was very pleased to find out that he likes a bevy and a bird. And so I think he's got a fair chance of making it.
Actually, that's the single most question that we've been asking the last 9 weeks is about Ryan Giggs. And I've seen Ryan Giggs play a lot of games now. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful player. And I've seen George play. I played with George a long time. And when I'm asked that question, my feeling is that between George Best and Ryan Giggs, in my opinion, I don't think there's too much to choose between them, personally. But then again, George is almost 47.
Lady sitting halfway back.
Question for both of you. Both played with Bobby Moore at Fulham. Was he as an exceptional player as everybody's been saying lately?
Yeah, it's... I mean, we don't want to get morose, but yes, I think he was an exceptional man. And Stephanie's here, but I don't want to get... But just it's nice to see her here. He was different class as a man, as a player, yeah. And if he was here, he'd be having a glass of champagne with us, so cheers.
Bobby Moore.
Bestie, hello mate, how are you?
Oh, don't you start.
Now listen, haven't been back to Henlow lately. You've got a reputation of probably being the world's greatest footballer and also the world's greatest womaniser. We've seen a few videos of your games. Have you got any videos of your greatest love matches? If not, would you like to buy some? We can't show that. I'll tell you something, be scoring going on then. Have you, who would you rate as not the world's greatest footballer, but the world's, you know, your favourite off the pitch? Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. Who would you say? No, I know your young lady is here tonight, but I don't want to embarrass you. Who would you rate as probably, I mean, you've been out with Miss World and everything, and who would you rate amongst the very best? And if he says Justin Fashanu, Kenny, I'll bloody go.
Well, first of all, how many was it? How many Miss Worlds was it?
Well, it's. I mean, the rumours going around that it was actually 3 in total. It should have been 7, but I didn't turn up for 4 of them. So it was. But one of them was a young lady called Marjorie Wallace, and when I mentioned before about this guy that called me from the Sun, the story was that he had called up because he had heard a story that Marjorie Wallace had kept a little black book. And I said, so did Jackie Charlton, but I wasn't giving him one. And I said, well, apparently in this little black book, she kept the names of all the lovers she'd been with and gave them marks out of 10. So I said, well, so what? So he said, well, you only got 3 out of 10. I said, well, it's 2 more than she got, fuck off.
Gentleman sitting halfway back.
Question for Rodney. Rodney, you appeared on television during the last World Cup alongside Graham Taylor. How did he impress you? And the second question, if I may be permitted a second one, what do you think of Charles Hughes, the head of coaching at the FA?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. The camera's rolling. I'll let George answer the Charles Hughes part of the question. Yeah, I did the World Cup with Graham Taylor in 1990, just before he got the job, and Bobby Keach reminded me of something that he said. He came up to me, Graham Taylor, and he said, Rodney, he said, do you know, he said, my greatest thrill in football, he said, was when Queen's Park Rangers was playing Lincoln in the League Cup, and I was marking you man to man. He said, and you only scored 2. I said, that's funny, Graham, I didn't know you was a player. And I'll let George answer the Charles Hughes part of the question.
Yeah, for those... Anybody know who Charles Hughes is? No. Nobody knows who Charles Hughes is. Howard Hughes, yeah, but difficult to find is Howard Hughes. This is a guy who's in charge of really football in this country, who has got some terrific ideas about how the game should be played. His main theory is that Brazil have got it all wrong. They pass the ball too much. They've only won 3 World Cups. And when you look at the youngsters that go and beat by a team called Ghana, who a couple of weeks ago were just eating each other, now they're beating England. I'm going to joke out my brother's
Can we
here.
cut that? Can we cut
that? And also, I mean, carrying on from that, on a serious note, when you look through the hierarchy involved in English football, see, I can say this because I'm Irish, so it doesn't bother me, but I love soccer. I love football, and I think it should be played in a proper manner. When you go through, I mean, I don't know the full list of people who are running the game in England, but I guarantee you there ain't too many of them have won too many medals. And I think it's a disgrace that kids are being taught by people who know fuck all about the game.
As that was a serious response, I've got to say something. I know Stephanie's here, but I've got to say this anyway. It seems to me as though when you're talking about the way that football's run in this country, that Franz Beckenbauer retired from football in Germany, and he was made immediately, he was made the manager of the West German national team. And when Bobby Moore retired from football in this country, you know, he didn't get a job in the game. And I think there's a lesson to be learned there. And you know, as Jules says, until players or former players, or at least people that have played the game, run the game in this country, I think we're going to be, you know, as we are today.
Kenny Lynch, a question.
Kenny Lynch, Ghana. And I haven't eaten anybody for months. I'd like to ask you, because I know you were two great crumpet men, and Malcolm had his share as well, I know. Do you foresee ever women playing in the game with you? That's a serious question.
No.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to see them exchange shirts after the game. Well done.
Two great characters.
Cheers, Malcolm. It's all gone, Bessie. Your champagne's gone.
Lady sitting halfway back, your question, please.
This is for both of you. Did you ever get threatened during matches, and did you ever hurt an opponent deliberately?
Cool. I tell you what, that's a very good question for me. I played... Is there any Scotsmen in the audience?
I played against this Chinese fella once.
So there was this Chinaman called Mac Ling. That's right, yeah. And I know this video is going to go out to a Scottish audience as well. It was Queen's Park Rangers played against Glasgow Rangers, a pre-season friendly. And I was being kicked all day by a player called Kai Johansson, who was the right back. And he kicked me one time too many, and I turned around and gave him a crack. And the referee ran over, and in those days you didn't get a red card, the referee just said off. And you know, I knew what was coming, so the referee ran over, and he was pointing to the dugout to go off. And as I was doing it, as I was going off, our trainer, who was a little guy called Jimmy Barrett, ran on the field and grabbed me from behind with both arms. And now it's all over, and he's grabbing me by the arms. And suddenly this great big Scottish centre-half comes running over to me, and he was within about 2 feet of me, and I just went, whack, and hit him in the face, and he went down. So there's two of them on the floor, and I've been sent off. On the Tuesday, I got a letter from Glasgow, and it said, we're coming down after you, we've got knives and guns and everything. And it had the guy's address on it.
Yeah, I had a sort of an experience once, and I was playing over in a charity game in Ireland, and it was I'd finished my career and I'd gone over there, and it was for charity, and the team we were playing against were an Irish league club, and they came in, and our trainer, our coach, said, he said, there's a guy that's playing for them. He's 19 years old. He's a bit of a nutcase. He's from a bad area of Belfast, and he's been saying in the papers that he doesn't care that you're 35, 36. He's going to kick you. Every time you get the ball, he's going to kick you. So I said, well, don't worry, I can look after myself. And this kid came out, and he kicked me from the first minute. Every time I got the ball, he was diving in and kicking me all over the place. So I got to about 20 minutes from the end, and the captain of my side was another little hard nut from Belfast. Of different religion. So he wanted me to do this fella. And he said, look, he said, the next time I get the ball, I said, I'll give it to you. He said, sort him out. So I said, all right. I said, I don't normally do this, but just give it to me. So he knocked the ball to me, and I ran towards this kid who'd been kicking the shit out of me all through the game. And I knocked it a little bit too far on purpose, and this guy fell for it. So I went in, and I went over and I hurt him, and he went down screaming, and I really hurt him. And the little captain of my team, he was about 5 foot north, a little knobby styles he was, a little terror, and he went over and he leant over this guy who was screaming, blood pouring out of his knee and screaming out, and he went over and he said, "Kittens don't fuck cats."
Gentleman sitting in the front row.
Yeah, it's Bobby Keach.
News at 10.
You both play for a number of clubs, but do you really feel that some of the old Fulham characters who used to play in the 60s while they were first division team, did they rate with those characters you played with since, or surpass them, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I played, we've mentioned Muro and Marsh. I mean, it was such fun to play with players who were great characters. And I know Rodney played, I didn't have the pleasure of playing with the great Johnny Haynes, but Marshy did.
Yeah, Kenny, it's great to see Kenny Lynch here this evening, and Kenny Lynch was a great friend of Johnny Haynes, and still is, and he told me a great story about Johnny Haynes. And when you compare today's footballers to those footballers, it's very different, and we all know that, and you can't compare the footballers. But there's a great story, and it goes like this, that, you know, when you look at the players today, like Paul Gascoigne and John Barnes, they're making £40,000 a week, and they've got agents, and they've got financial and pension planners and all that. Well, in those days, you didn't have any of that. And you went in to see the manager, and he told you what he was going to make, and that was it. And there's a great story is that Johnny Haynes' best friend was a big, tall centre forward called Maurice Cook. Nice guy, very ordinary player, a little bit dim, but a great friend, a great friend. Sorry, Maurice. A great friend of Johnny Haynes. And he said to him, "John, when you're going to negotiate your contract with a manager, when you come out, please let me know how you did. Because, you know, so that'll give me some type of idea." So John said, "No problem, Maurice, great friend, I'll let you know." Johnny Haynes goes in, talks to the manager. Manager says, "Johnny, you're a brilliant, brilliant player, captain of England, scored all these goals. We're going to make you the first £100 a week football player. And we're going to give you £100 a week in the season, and we're going to give you £80 a week in the summer." He went, "Thanks very much, boss," and walks out. There's Maurice Cook outside waiting for him. He said, "How'd you do, John?" He said, "Well, Maurice," he said, "I've got £100 a week in the season, and I've got £80 a week in the summer." And he went, "Thanks very much." And he goes in, talks to the manager. Manager says, "Well, Maurice," he said, "you did okay last year." He said, "We're going to give you £60 a week in the season, and we're going to give you £40 a week in the summer." And he went, "Well, wait a minute, you're just going to give Johnny Haynes £80 a week in the summer." And he said, "Well, he's a much better player than you are, Maurice." He said, "Not in the fucking summer, he's not."
Gentleman sitting halfway back.
Yeah. Hello. You've both worked under Jimmy Hill. What do you make of Jimmy Hill?
I've never been under Jimmy Hill, I promise you.
Jimmy Hill was on the committee that first got Johnny Haynes his £100 a week. So I think he made the major steps for the players in this country, because he headed up the PFA that got the minimum wage abolished. So Jimmy Hill, I mean, he's a crap player, but he certainly did well for the players at the time.
And he talks a load of crap as well, but apart from him, he's all right, yeah.
Gentleman sitting there.
If you could turn the clock back to your playing days, what's the one thing you would change and the one thing you wouldn't?
I'd have turned up for the 4 Miss Worlds that I missed. And playing-wise, I'd like to have played more for my country, but because of club commitments and going on the piss, I missed about 87 games, so I'd like to have changed that. But I personally, I don't know what Rodney thinks about it, but I consider myself very, very lucky. In a short space of time, well, I suppose 11, 12 years, I was European Player of the Year, British. I was the first division leading goal scorer. I won 2 championship medals, European Cup winners medal. I was 6 years in a row that Manchester United's leading goal scorer, which has never been done since and probably won't ever be done again. So I'm not complaining. So I wouldn't change anything from the football point now.
Same question.
No, I wouldn't change a thing about my career, on or off the field.
Bobby Davro, another question.
I have another one. I saw Bobby Charlton being interviewed a few years back, and they asked him about you, obviously, and he said, and I hope I'm getting my quotes right, that he tended to resent you just slightly because of your genius. You tended to, and I'm sure everyone in the room felt as though you'd let everybody down by not giving your full to football. You were such a genius. Now, how do you defend yourself against that?
I don't.
Oh, well, fair enough.
Because I do what I want, not what Bobby Charlton wants or anyone else. I mean, I can see his point of view because I've got friends of mine, close friends, who say, you know, you should have played for another 20 years. And I said, well, I didn't. And funny enough, Bobby Charlton, last time I saw him, told a lovely story at an event. And he used to get really frustrated at me. And he told this true story. And, you know, the rumours about Bobby and I continue. And he said he was playing in a game and he used to get so frustrated because I wouldn't give him the ball. He said he used to call for it and get himself in positions. He said, and we were playing one game, I think it was against Southampton at Old Trafford. He said, and I made this run. He said, I beat the full-back. I came back, I beat him again, and I beat the other full-back. He said, I was getting dizzy. He said, trying to follow Bestie. He said, I kept calling for it. And then he said, I got so frustrated and I said, and he screamed at me, Bestie, you greedy little, what a great fucking goal, Bestie. And coming from Bobby, it's a great compliment from a great player. And I can understand his point of view. I wish I'd have played for another 20 years for the club that I love and stuff.
Especially, we all wish we could have seen more of you.
Thank you.
But it's great to see you tonight, mate. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Fat Ron was going to come tonight, but he couldn't get through the door. But I'd just like to say about these two guys, you know, that they play themselves down and they talk about certain things in their lives. But the one thing they were dedicated to, they were both dedicated to football, and they both worked very, very hard at their game. And when they were professional, they were really professional. So don't underestimate them at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
I'll jump in, There's a comedian who wants to ask a question, but before we do, Bobby.
Go on. I light it up. I know. Oh, thank you very much. Listen, in show business, right, we're always boasting about... I'll get a little bit personal now, because there's a lot of fellas here. Who's the best well-endowed person in show business? He is actually here tonight. And he's black, unfortunately. And he's somewhere here, Kenny boy. Who... Now, you've taken a lot of baths, haven't you, and showers, like you do. And I want to know... Well, it's a question, isn't it? Who's not the biggest, but who had the biggest? Old Matt Whitford, thank you. Do you actually, I mean, not that you look at each other in the shower. I'm beginning to get a bit like Julian Clary now. Not that you look at each other in the shower.
You sure he's straight?
And what day is it today? Yes, I am. I just helped him out in the busy. But can you remember, did you ever used to say, oh, look at, what's his name? Bite your legs Hunter. Look at the size of him and Nobby Styles. I mean, that springs to mind, doesn't it?
No, listen, as it's a serious question.
It is a serious question. I wanted to know, did you ever used to boast? Oh, blimey, did you just...
Yeah, I've got to go on record for all the QPR fans that are here. I've got to go on record as saying Alan Wilkes, who was a...
Alan Wilkes?
No, what it was, Keishy reminded me of a story. We had a photo, one day we had a photo day, and we had to cancel all the photographs because they couldn't get it inside his shorts.
This is to George. How did you feel when they said that Paul Gascoigne was the next George Best? What was your reaction when they said that?
Well, I mean, I've got used to it. I mean, I tell a little story about Paul, and I see him quite a lot. We use the same health farm. I go to health farms once in a while. It's working for me, but it's not. And I do a little story. I mean, I laugh and joke about the number 10 on his back not being his position, being his IQ. And but being Irish, I exaggerate. And I saw him recently, and I said, you know, Paul, I hope you don't mind. You know, I do this little story about, you know, your IQ. You know, it's not number 10's not your position; it's your IQ. And he said, Bestie, if we can't laugh at each other, he said we shouldn't be here. He said, no, he said it doesn't bother me at all. And when he was walking out the room, he turned around and he said, Bestie, what's an IQ? So to have him compared to me is an insult.
Gentleman halfway back.
To both of you gentlemen, what was it like to play together? Open-ended question.
Yeah, we enjoyed playing together. Yeah, it's great. I did anyway.
Yeah, I think we're great friends and we have the same ideas about the way it should be played. And it should be fun. And we played, when we went to Fulham, they were getting crowds of 2,000, and they went up to 25, 30,000. And if you watch the video and to see people laughing and joking and taking the kids along, with no violence and plenty of skill and atmosphere, it was absolutely, it was a pleasure to play alongside, yeah. You know.
And when the lads were on song, they were really on song playing for Fulham. Take a look at this.
Best. Oh, what a ball there by Best to Marsh. And a beautiful save by Charlton, and he very nearly lost it. Marsh jumping all over Burrows. What a ball by Best. And in low towards Bell, and here's Best. Now, is this going to be the moment for George Best? There's a little chip. And it's there by Best. Played inside for Marsh. Looking around, seeing who he can pick up. Decides to go one in. Oh my goodness, what a goal! Oh, what a tremendous goal by Marsh. Well, he wrong-footed them all there. And a lovely ball for Best. Now can he do the same? Onto the right foot. Mitchell on the far post. Marsh with a header.
Gentleman halfway back.
Second point there. After seeing that, George, where did it all go wrong?
Oh, very good. In actual fact, George has got a little story that he's going to tell in a minute, but before we get to that, during the last 9 weeks we've been all over the country, and we're asked all the time, I'm asked all the time, in being with him, what is my favourite George Best story? And it's a good story that Matt Busby tells about George, and before he gets to his story about himself, it's this little Manchester United fan dies and goes to heaven. And he goes up to heaven and he gets to the pearly gates and there's St. Peter and he goes there and he says, well, no, there's no way you can come in, son. He goes, no, I have to. He said, no way, your name's not down on my list, you can't come in. He goes, I'm a United fan, I've got to come in. He said, no, he said, there's no way. He said, you mean there's no way? He said, well, we have one way you can get in. He said, that's the impossibility test. He said, and if you take it and you do it, you can get in. He said, well, what is it? Anything, what is it? He said, St. Peter said, well, look down there, he said, and you see there's the USA down there, and then there's England, and in between there's the Atlantic Ocean. And you take this little bucket and spade, and you've got 24 hours, and you just empty the Atlantic Ocean. And he goes, Christ. He said, well, I told you it's difficult. So he said, you got anything else? He said, no. He said, sorry. He said, that's the. He said, well, we do have one more test. He said, look down there. He said, there's a footballer down there. He's got black hair. He's got a beard. His name's George Best. He said, and the test is, you got to go down there, and you got to stop him drinking, gambling, and screwing women. He said, give me the bucket and spade.
Second part of the question, George, where did it all go wrong?
Well, the question, I mean, it's also a true story. I mean, when Rodney and I do this too, the true stories are the best. And a few years back, I was living with a young lady who was Miss World. It gets boring, doesn't it, after a while? I think she was the third anyway. Her name was Mary Stavin. And I was working one night in Birmingham. And I did a show, and we went out to the casino afterwards. And I won, we got a couple of bottles of Dom Perignon, and I won about £25,000 in the casino. And we went back to the hotel, the Holiday Inn in Birmingham, and I've got £25,000 in my pocket. And we get back to the hotel, and the little night porter's a little Irish fella. And we walk in, and he's gone, Mr. Best, he said, I can't believe this. He said, I'm from Belfast. It's been my dream to meet you all these years, and, I've dreamt about this, since I was a kid. And I'm going, thank you, Paddy. I took a guess at what his name was. I wasn't sure. Thank you, Paddy. So I said, thank you. So I said, Mary, do you fancy another bottle of Dom Perignon, up in the suite? So she said, yeah, that'd be nice. So I said, Paddy, I said, we're in suite 601. Can you bring us up a bottle of Dom Perignon? Right away, Mr. Best. He said, I can't believe I've met you. This is a dream come true. He said, this is amazing. So we go up to the room, and we get in the room, the four-poster bed, and I take the £25,000 out of my pocket, and I throw it on the four-poster bed, so there's £25,000 in cash. And Mary's gone in the bathroom and come out in a see-through negligee with a long blonde hair and the legs up to here, and I'm getting a hard on here. And so, you are as well? Oh, good. So, so we're in there, and about 5 minutes later, there's a knock on the door, and Paddy is staggered in with a bottle of Dom Perignon and 3 glasses. And so he's come in, and he's seen the £25,000 on the bed, and he's seen Mary sitting on the edge of this four-poster in this see-through sheer negligee, and he's looking at me, oh, Mr. Best, he said, it's like, he thinks he's gone to heaven, he can't believe it. So I said, Paddy, so I've slipped him a few quid. I said, just leave the Dom Perignon there and, you know, take the extra glass. And he's backing out the door, and as he's backing out, he's looking for the handle. And as he gets to the door, he's had another look at the £25,000, another look at this beautiful Miss World with this see-through negligee. And he said, Mr. Best, can I ask you something that's been bothering me for a long, long time? I said, yeah, what is it, Paddy? He said, where the fuck did it all go wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, George Best and Rodney Marsh.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a great audience. Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny. Thank you. Right, Gary. Thank you very much.